We're super excited to introduce Innovative Orchestrator, the first AI super agent for omnichannel advertising. We're bringing humans and AI agents together so that marketers can conduct a symphony across channels to reach their most valuable customers.
AI is not a matter of if, it's a matter of how and when, and we will help you solve that.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Berkowitz. Welcome to another edition of AI Insiders with AI Marketers Guild by Marketecture. And we've got a really fun conversation today with Colin Jvens, a founder and entrepreneur who I've got to know more past few months. And thanks also to Tony Winders of the Winders Group, who's a very old industry friend who some of you might know here, and who connected me with Colin and his team. And Colin's doing some really exciting stuff at the intersection of the shopping and commerce, but also the creator economy, affiliate marketing. And like, there's this through line to where AI is powering and empowering a lot of what he's doing and building, and with his product suite here. It's a topic that I don't think we covered enough. And as I was diving deeper here, I was excited to have Colin come and share his perspective. So welcome.
Thanks, David. Really looking forward to today, and thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully I won't bore you with my dulcet tones, and I'll do the best to answer any questions I can.
So I gave my broader, more informal intro, but who the heck are you anyway?
Yeah, so for everyone who doesn't know me, Colin Jvens, I guess I've worked in the search technology space for 27 years. I'm the founder, CEO, chairman of the Nomix Group that have a number of different companies, all designed to facilitate a frictionless experience for consumers in shopping. Over the last 27 years of search, I've built many companies entrepreneurially. I built the largest political publisher in Europe with search technology. I built a large ad tech company that was licensed to every publisher in the world. I reversed and owned the largest defense and intelligence technology in search technology, and we built or owned a contract that built the semantic web, which was the bedrock for AI, machine learning, semantic analysis, knowledge graph, entity extraction in 2010. So I've worked in the AI space for a little while, and at the moment, I think one of the most interesting, rapidly changing markets is shopping, and open and love to discuss my thoughts or views of how shopping is changing, kind of how important commerce is to the global economy, and certain areas of AI that are misunderstood, because everybody focuses on the beauties and the wonders of ChatGPT and Perplexity and many other agentic AI agents, but there are a lot of areas where AI is heavily involved and will make significant changes in the world of shopping. And I'm happy to discuss all of them in as much detail as you wish.
Well, I mean, let's just start with getting a little more detail then. So, because for shopping, as you think about it, then there's so many phases to it, right? And so awareness and discovery and research, and then the process itself that can be a multi-channel process, and then the customer experience after, and advocacy. And so shopping is obviously a lot of things, and it's different things to different people in different contexts. And clearly shopping for some Halloween candy is different from shopping for a new Bentley. So what are some of the most immediate applications where you're seeing AI actually impact? Like, what parts of the shopping process are you even most interested in, excited about right now?
Well, I think the first one is really the significance, because over the last 20 years of the digitalization of content and the internet, shopping has kind of been the backseat driver to the world of advertising. And advertising, when you really put, whether you're talking about Google, Meta as the two £800 gorillas in the West, shopping globally is a 600 billion. Advertising is a 600 billion a year bucket of money, and it's a small portion of what is the conversion for shopping. And shopping is a $3 trillion a year bucket of money. And some of the channels of change of shopping, in no particular order, would be search, how do you discover a product or a price or a holiday, and how did you do it a year ago? Well, the answer to the vast majority of the population of the planet would be they would have gone to a browser. It would probably have been, or an app. It would probably have been Safari or Chrome. They would have put in a query, and a bunch of blue links or PLAs, product listing advertisements, would have appeared, and there would have been a click. So search is radically changing. Click volumes are changing. The impact of AI agents and LLMs on where consumers start the journey for answers is changing, and that has a huge impact to shopping. It has a huge impact to marketeers, and it also has a really positive impact to consumers. But also the other obvious ones, or not so obvious, depending on the way you look upon it, is, UGC, user-generated content. What is the impact of AI-generated content? Photographs, stills, journalistic editorial, full videos, short form, long form, that used to be tens, hundreds, even millions of dollars to produce content, with a beautiful car driving through a desert on fire that was going to be shown in the middle of the Super Bowl, all of a sudden can be generated for a fraction of the price and, hyper targeted across the internet. So all of these are areas of AI. All of these are areas of shopping. All of them are warrant, deep discussion. Mm-hmm. But I think if there's one thing that I would like everybody to leave, and if it was talking to an analyst or a CMO or a CEO of a multinational brand, is where are we going to be 24 months from now? Mm-hmm. Personally, I think overall, although there will be significant losers, shopping will have a huge positive impact because of AI, meaning people will discover more, see more, get the opportunity to buy more, and ultimately will spend more money in shopping in the next 24 months than they did in the last 24 months. So much so that I think that in the Western shopping market, you'll have, above a 30% increase in total revenue spent.
Wow.
So those are big statements, big words. I think there is reason I can back up those things, but there are also going to be significant losers in the journey of shopping, and how marketeers and publishers, for that matter, depending on how you define a publisher, handle the changes in search engine optimization, search engine marketing, content marketing, affiliate marketing, and how do I reach the consumer in the right place at the right time to get conversion to sell the product I sell.
And one thing I'm curious, it's already started to get them in the chat, and I want to go deeper into where that 30% bump is coming from, but also I'm curious how this is going to happen without alienating a lot of people too, because I think there's this impression that like AI for shopping, especially with social commerce and UGC, is you just see all of this mindless stuff that is just being like pumped into the feed, and it's like this. Just, I mean, so it's various versions of slop and this like, and so there's clearly, it's how you use this technology, but how you reap these benefits without also going down this like lowest common denominator path and actually making things worse.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't necessarily say that everything is better for all people, because it's very selective of whether something is good or bad. Is Meta a great product or bad product? I'm not here to kind of debate those. What I will say is that consumers will have more opportunities to see more products than they've ever seen.
Mm.
They will actually have more opportunities to search for the exact product at the right place, at the right location, at the right time than they have ever had. So if you're a consumer and you can kind of, cut past the dribble of, poorly created content, you're going to have the opportunity to window shop when and where you want. And you're also going to have the ability to buy it with less friction than you ever had. Because think about the way the journey of a consumer actually got to purchase a product, particularly if they were in the world of search. They were effectively directed to lots of different links and a lot of research that took a lot of time, took a lot of energy to get the right answers to the questions they were asking in relation to shopping. Now, you could literally, and still in its infancy because ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc., are still experimenting with the best way to display this, which is some of the things that we're trying to help with the Nomix Group. Is, if you want to buy a Prada bag in a certain color, in a certain place at the best price that is in store, that is available to purchase, you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it from an LLM. It's going to be very quick, less friction, more time to focus on other things. So, as a whole, I think it's a good, AI is a good thing for consumers when you're talking about shopping.
And when you're talking about search here and this, like, when and how and where people want it, where do you think and especially looking at like what's going to change the next 24 months, like you're talking about here, then how much of this is going to be driven by, say, like Google versus ChatGPT versus on platforms like TikTok and Instagram? Where's this coming from?
I think you've got to kind of silo or verticalize the whole shopping experience, which isn't easy, by the way. So if you look at the platform community, mm-hmm. and what I define by a platform community, it's a platform that have hundreds of millions of users utilizing and creating content, whether it's Snapchat, Pinterest, Meta products, TikTok, etc. You could ask yourself a fundamental question, and that is, do people like looking at products, i.e. shopping? Mm-hmm. Do they like window shopping? Personally, I think people do like looking at products. They do like discovering things that they didn't know they need. Do they need them? Probably not. But much of the trend that you see for those platforms that have already occurred and is occurring in China, I believe will occur here. And that is with the use of certainly video AI, which I think is an interesting, positive and negative addition to the content creation world. You're going to have a lot of products, presented by current influencers to their follower group, highlighting things they like, things they think are worth having. And is that going to do a positive impact to selling more products or not? Mm-hmm. And to me, I think that vertical is going to have a significant increase in spend. In fact, if you look at ByteDance's numbers, which people forget that ByteDance actually generates more money per quarter than Facebook, out of nowhere, 25% of their revenue is now from shopping. Almost nowhere. So clearly, does the platform generate the consumption to the consumer base, or does the consumer base want the products that the platform presents? Now, I believe it's the latter. And, ask people if they like shopping, and the answer is yes. If you look at another vertical, that vertical is what would be classed as the search vertical, where you have a multiple trillion-dollar company, Goliath, called Google, and then you have a secondary, Bing. That is much more the area of where LLMs, ChatGPT, Perplexities, and many of the other AI agents will be disrupting consumer behavior, and frankly, already are really significant disruptions are occurring in that sector. And at the end of the day, search engines or answer engines or AI engines, whatever words you want to use, are ultimately there when the consumer has decided to purchase. Their intention is there, and they've made the decision they need to fly to Miami. They've made the decision they want the new outdoor furniture. They've made the decision that they require a certain product, best price, best location, best time. Actually, answer engines provide better solutions for that ultimately than what would be a traditional search engine, because a traditional search engine just gives you a bunch of links for you to do your own discovery. An answer engine, when you say, I want the best priced product for an automatic cat litter that I can buy today, or a cat litter dispenser that I can buy today, then you will order it, and you will use an engine that gives you that answer and saves you time. And I think LLMs are really good examples of where there is going to be significant disruption of that. There is already significant disruption of that, depending on which research you want to read. 15 to 30% disruption on the way click orientation occurs on search engines, ultimately to either publishers or to marketeers. And the impact of that is huge if you're a marketeer, because you've got to look after the traditional SEO, SEM world, and you've got to look at what do I do on LLMs.
Well, yeah, and I will tell you, as someone who has tested too many litter boxes, the poper that I put in there, you don't even need ChatGPT. It's amazing. Okay, I'm waiting for all the shipping supply chain issues to get my Model S7 coming in here. But that's an aside. That I'm curious, though, speaking of shopping in the here and now, then, so we're talking next 24 months, but we're obviously chatting in early mid-November. Next 4-6 weeks are pretty big deal here with the holiday shopping in full bloom. So for brands and for consumers, what's different now, even say this year compared to last year or a year or two ago, and in terms of where AI either very visibly or maybe invisibly for consumers is playing a role? I'm curious, like, what's changed already, or is like changing as we speak?
Well, I think if you start with the brand, if you were the senior chief marketing officer of a significant or an up and coming brand, you're living in a complex world to what you would have 10 years ago, let alone, and even a year ago, because, you had above the line marketing, you had below the line marketing, you had TV, newspapers, press, etc. And then, you got used to, I guess, the last 20 years, which was the internet. And then, the internet, then you got your search engine optimization, you got your AdWords buyer, you got your affiliate. And now all of a sudden, from November of last year, which is approximately a year ago, you got ChatGPT, you got answer engines occur, and then you've got the very rapid change in the influencer world. The influencer world was dominated by sponsorship models where you hire Kim Kardashian for $3 million and she sells you $100 million worth of product. And now all of a sudden you got 300 million, creators in those channels, maybe even more than that. And all of a sudden they can be all recommending products and services. And you got to know, how do I deal with this model? How do I communicate with this new channel? And how do I optimize my traffic or my ability to communicate with consumers on LLMs? And in actual fact, this is one of the things that we've created, the verticalization of the Nomix Group, where we are ultimately, we're about the economics of shopping, which is really where the shopnomics comes from. It's the economics of shopping. And we're about making the journey easier for a CMO to communicate to their consumers. And we verticalized it that, happy to go into in more detail. But to answer the question from a consumer, are you more irritated by better accuracy and less friction to get to the product you want? Or are you more irritated by the ability to see things that you may not think or know you need? And I think in both cases, you're not irritated. You're happy that you get a free way to get to the products you need, with LLMs and answer engines, including Google via Gemini. And you're also happier to spend time where people that you admire and follow are highlighting things that could be of use to you. So in both cases, the consumer is happy for the journey of increased awareness in products. Mm-hmm. And the ability to buy them at higher speed, at a faster speed. But from a marketeer's perspective, I would, really, kind of feel sorry for the extra workloads that they because there are radical changes occurring at very high speed, which means there's huge wins to be had, because there's new audiences that you can explode your product to. But on the flip side of it, for those that are protecting dominant positions, the brands that we all know, it must be a worrying time, because, you've got to get that marketing and your ability to get to the consumer right. Otherwise, you're going to lose market share.
And so then with the influencer piece, and as we're talking about how that's changing shopping and how marketeers can go and tap into the hundreds of millions of creators out there, then where is AI changing things in that flow?
It's a great question, and these are evolving markets. They are not mature. And I think it's really important to demonstrate that, which means there's still, companies finding their feet. We decided to invest in a company called Creator.co, where we had Vinod and Rob as the CEO and chief strategy officer there. And, we liked what they were doing. And ultimately what they're doing is they're creating an AI agent that enables brands to see, put in exactly the kind of content creators or influencers that they want to see their products with, and basically automate the whole process of finding the type of influencers that they want to actually work with, and then actually creating content that those influencers and frames and boundaries of how they want those influencers to create content, and then ultimately spend money with them. So you're effectively connecting influencers with brands with the ability to give consumers a better user experience. And that will become much more mature over the course of the next 18, 24 months. And, because it's easy to forget everybody's a publisher. There are 300 million influencers, I don't know the number of above 10,000 followers, but it's tens of millions of them have tens of thousands of followers. And they can be very vertical. It's I'm on the angling, I'm on travel, I'm on fashion, I'm on beauty. And there's always brands within those different verticals of followers that are looking to ways to influence consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's not forget, as consumers, I want to know the new products in the space that I'm passionate about, whether it's photography, angling, fashion. And, that's the history of publishing in the last 300 years. So, I see that it is evolving. There are platforms really sprouting up to make that world more simple. We've made a couple of bets in the sector ourselves. We may not be 100% correct, but all boats will 100% rise in that consumers will discover more, influencers will show more, and consumers will also buy more.
Colin, can I be the devil's advocate here a little bit? What about those of us who absolutely loathe shopping? Like, I'd rather put needles in my eyeballs. I'm the only person on the planet who hates home goods.
As I said, Eileen, I'm not advocating that something's right. Much the same way as I wouldn't say, one, journal is superior to another journal. What I'm saying is, the 90%, the 60%, the vast majority of people that are utilizing those platforms right now. Personally, I'm not even on social media other than LinkedIn for work. So I'm not the audience. What I'm demonstrating and trying to illustrate is we are in a changing world. We have got new technology that comes with positives as well as many negatives. And what is going to happen over the course of the 24 months. And irrespective of me, I'm lucky enough to have 4 children, and I watched their behavior, and believe me, they like shopping.
Yeah, but so it's not going to help my life. If I hate shopping, how is it going to help I don't really, answer engines, but do you see, I get how it's helping people who love shopping. How is it going to help people who hate shopping?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that even if you think about it and even look at the shelf behind you, the reality is, if you go to the big, creators of content in your kitchen, the average consumer will have 129 identical products, whether that's washing powder, whether that's particular types of food. The reality is it doesn't matter whether you like shopping or not. The reality is you shop because you have to sustain your life. Whether it's the chair in your garden that you want to sit on, whether it's the cereal or the food that you choose to eat, or the car you drive. Now, you might not recognize it in that manner, nor do I recognize it in that manner, but the reality is we are creatures of consumption, so we all shop. Now, some people love that experience. Personally, I'm not one of them. And some people do it out of the necessity of the things they want. But one thing that I have noticed over the course of the last 25 years, if you don't like shopping, you want the answer faster because you want less friction.
Right.
Actually, so new AI, particularly in answer engines, makes my life easier because I get it quicker and I can get away from purchasing and shopping. But to the people that love, flicking through the new products, of which again, I'm not one of them, that spend time on social media, let's get real. Consumers are spending 4 hours a day on apps in the social space. Are they going to like more content in shopping or not? Some will, some won't. But the net rise, and I'm only talking about the net rise, I'm not trying to debate what's right or wrong. The net rise is there's going to be an increase in purchasing of products.
And there's a point down brought up that it is fascinating here, where it's like he's saying, do we trust AI tools to recommend products? I don't think I do. But you're also talking about where AI is assisting the delivery through influencers. So I might not trust AI in the same way that I trust the people I'm already following.
Correct. I mean, I think that's a really, really important point. And there will be those influencers with the integrity to only recommend products that they like, and people that will not, But, one of the big tools, particularly in the influencer world, is the ability to use AI to create content. Because content creation is a time-consuming process, and it's an area where AI is not really discussed much, but there is no question that the ability to create content, even video content, at scale, at speed, is going to increase radically, and is increasing already, but it's going to increase hundreds, if not thousands of % over the course of the next 24 months. And, there are going to be, good actors, bad actors, but there's no question that a well-intentioned influencer with high integrity and testing the products they recommend is going to drive higher sales and conversions of those products than someone that's just, switching left on every product that they put in place. But, back to the bottom line is, are consumers going to like it? Well, they already do. And, will they consume more of it? I think they will. And will they end up buying more products? I think they will.
So,
I think at the fundamentals of advertising is always reach and frequency. So if you can reach people and you can show them the message, I notice in myself, even though I'm not a big shopper, but when I go into a supermarket to buy something and there's a whole bunch of products on the shelf, I tend to pick the one that is familiar to me. So, the fundamentals are the fundamentals. You want to reach the most amount of people often in order to get them to consider you. Great stories.
And there's also some of the chat going on now where there is some healthy aversion to things that are like just so AI driven for UGC, and I imagine that there will be some brands taking more of like the stance opposite to what Coke has done, right? Coke very famously is going all in with AI, even with a big human team behind it, in creating their Christmas spots and things like that. But then, I could imagine some brands, and I'll use just as a hypothetical, brand like Dove, right? They've campaigned all around real beauty. And so for brands that already said they don't use Photoshop, that they just real people, they're probably using AI would be off brand for a lot of the content, but that also still doesn't mean they have to avoid AI, right? It just means that it's going to play a role in GEO or like finding influencers or other parts of the process. Like you can embrace some parts of it and not all of it.
I completely agree with that, in that this is not all models will be AI. And let's remember, certain components of it will be AI. Again, not all of it. It's important to mention that, one of the big, having met Don Keough at Coca-Cola while he was still around, one of their claim to fame was sponsoring the Olympics in the early 1970s, where they spent $1 million for it. So their competitive advantage was actually understanding the change in the way consumers interact with sponsorship. And, the idea of debating horse and carriage to car, somebody that is not going to use AI, somewhere in the chain of communication with consumers, I do not believe will survive. Where and how they use it, there is no question that very smart, elegant, companies like Dove, where they say we will not use an influencer that's created content that is an AI. I agree with you. But you might use AI to find which influencer you want to talk to.
Mm.
Right. And you might use AI in relation to an LLM when you want to actually highlight the fact that you don't use AI.
Mm.
Right. So the truth is, there is no avoiding the new technology that is in our labs.
Mm.
The smart is how you utilize it to achieve your objective.
Mm. Love that. I also want to make sure there's ample time for questions from attendees because it's been as usual, a very chatty group in the chat. So what do you want to ask Colin?
I have a question.
Go for it, Adam, and then we'll go to Alexander. Yeah.
Yeah. Colin, for a long time, we've been helping people, just have these super dynamic landing pages. We've talked a lot about more of the upper funnel and the content and where discovery happens. The builder IOs of the world where you can have like thousands of personalized, even home pages. Forget about, stuff at the PLP, PDP level. Do you see a world where like people are building some of those types of capabilities, systems, either as vendor, in-house, end-to-end, or they're using best in class? Like where does this all start to settle out? I'm thinking at a high level, not even at the level of, oh no, there's these different agentic workflows. They all communicate with each other. Just like how do you think people would invest if I'm a PE firm and I'm going to like buy a company? I'm either thinking about like if it's a D2C brand, right? I might think about a future investment like this all under one roof, or are these lots of...
I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but I'll give it a go, and please jump in and say that's not what I was in for.
It's meant to be very open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So, I think that change is an opportunity, and, are there going to be needs for tens, hundreds, thousands of different landing page opportunities? What is a landing page? It's the creation of content on one page. AI will help automate that. It may, without question, will also be able to bring it to life, sight, sound, emotion. So in many ways, they could be better. How you get traffic to those landing pages will also be, a new challenge. You may have been a master at search engine optimization, search engine marketing, and used a form of arbitrage to get people onto those pages, with the view that they're going to end up consuming content and consuming products or generating revenue by CPM, CPC, or CPA. I think that the way that PE firms, depending on what kind of vertical you're talking about, if you're talking about the media world for PE, I think there's huge opportunities for people that are demonstrating rapid, fast growth. If you're talking about companies and marketeers, are PE firms going to look to acquire brands that are failing? If they'd mastered the new world of content, LLMs, AI generation, influencer marketing, then they will look to purchase products that have not mastered that, because that will become a competitive advantage in the same way as Coca-Cola, sponsored the Olympics in the 1970s, is that if you have already cracked the code of generating consumer behavior on a new AI world, then you can own more assets and, use that code with other things. So again, in any changing landscape, whether you're talking about the stock market or life, there are winners and there are losers. And we're in a change mode, and that means there's opportunity. And it doesn't mean I have all the answers because it's changing that rapidly. But what I do know is we have created our company with the view and had extremely rapid growth in sales because we've demonstrated the way that we can help brands, verticalize the way they look to consumers traditional publishing, new world publishing, programmatic publishing, and, LLM AI publishing, and look to master them to get more conversions and ultimately sell more of their products. Hopefully I got a little bit of the question right. And if I didn't, please tell me, Adam, and, I'll understand it better.
Well, 42 is the secret of the universe. So I think you did. No, that's great. Thank you.
Alexander.
Thank you, David, and thank you to our speaker as well. Colin, it's interesting to hear your perspective. I also have another open-ended question here. It's in the similar vein that Adam did, and specifically around content. There's this interesting thesis floating around for a while around zero marginal cost content, which going way back to like the internet age is sort of how, Facebook and the other tech companies were able to eat up traditional publishers. Hope that's not controversial or going down another rabbit hole. But now we're sort of getting there, I think, with AI and content creation of the type of content, digital content that would typically that would show up in the shopper journey, as you've been talking about, like, digital ads. You go to a website, you're browsing a product detail page, and it just seems like there's this interesting kind of conceptual tension where if AI can make like infinite content for free, how do you prevent it from all turning into AI slop? So hopefully so that's also an open-ended question, but just interested to hear, because I very much agree with like where you see the world going, but like, how do we make sure, there's value for brands? How do brands, find value and deliver that to shoppers? How do they survive in this world of infinite content is maybe a more specific way of putting the question.
I remember having a lunch with Eric Schmidt, where he was the speaker, and we were openly talking. It was a small event, and he was talking about what are the jobs in an AI world, right? Somebody asked, what do you ask your children? Where do they need to focus on to ensure they've got employment? One of the areas that he was talking about was creativity, and the creative arts assets are the assets of the future. And any content creation requires an editor. Frankly, so does journalism in many ways. It requires somebody to ultimately make a decision on what is to be seen and what isn't. And I'm not sure that role fits in an AI role. I've seen and had debates where judges will all be AI engines, and senators and congressmen and policymaking will all be AI engines. And maybe there's some truth in that, maybe there's not. But one thing's for sure is there will always be, I believe, a need of creative skill in the production of content. The AI engine may accelerate the speed of the creation of that content. And I'll give you an example. Was discussing something with a very famous runner where they just spent $500,000 with a very famous brand creating one day's shoot to create this content, which the famous runner didn't want to be there. The brand didn't, hated the fact they had to deal with this prima donna that didn't want to be there because they're spending all this money. And then actually they'd like to be able to create another 1,000 assets out of the material that they created. Well, now they will be able to do that at extremely low cost, where none of them was disrupted, none of them was put out of either cost or time, but it will still require very talented people to decide on which one is going to resonate with the consumer or not. And will they use AI engines and then AI data to actually get the right accurate information? Will they use AI surveys to understand their consumers are actually behaving the way they want? I think they will. But there will still be need of somebody actually saying yes to this smiling cat and no to this gorilla.
The artist in the machine is still required.
Correct. I'm glad you got it. It was my British sense of the humor.
Cool. I'll take it. Thank you.
Thanks.
There's a question coming in from Daniel, and he's curious about interfaces. Do you see more teams thinking about invisible user interfaces with AI, like WhatsApp, voice, email, rather than just like using the LLMs? Colin, any thoughts on that?
Again, if I understand the question correctly, I think invisible interfaces are going to be huge. Conversational commerce is going to be huge. In fact, a product that you may want to play with, because I've been in the natural language search space for a long time, but a product you may want to play with is weird. I could put it in the chat, but I'll spell it as a dyslexic. WISPR flow.ai. Don't know whether if anyone's played with that or not. Yeah. That is a very good AI speech to text engine that you can plug into, frankly, any device or phone. And, there's been a lot of talk about the invisible speech to text world for a long time. I think that now that is starting to occur. And those invisible engines and invisible ways to communicate with AI are real. You're going to have 3-year-old children that are going to be taught by the person in the speakers, because ultimately they can ask any question and get any answer. So the invisible components of AI, I think, are real. And, in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, there is no question that my grandchildren, some people's children, are going to be able to utilize those assets in a really positive way, even though as a parent, as a then grandparent, we're all going to be concerned about those changes, because make no mistakes about it, we're living in probably the largest experiment in human history. We've been through digitalization, and now you've got an AI engine sitting in your living room, helping you create content, frankly, discover any information, gain access to the great minds in history, living in your living room. It's going to be change. It's going to be scary. It's also going to be exciting. And let's hope we make it a positive for the good as opposed to a negative. But time will tell.
Well, Alexander was just saying, Colin's dropping the quote. Somebody's tweeting this, I hope. So, we'll definitely mine some of the quotes to share with those after for the replay. And yes, this will be on our YouTube channel probably within a couple of days. Any other final questions in our last few minutes with Colin, at least for now? Is anything you absolutely want to make sure he covers before we go and do our holiday shopping today?
One thing I'd like to just highlight, or almost a frame of mind in some ways, is that change is always scary, and there isn't much scarier things in life than the radical changes that AI is presenting to us. But it also means there can be really positive outcomes from frankly incredible technology. And yes, it's going to be disruptive, but if it's embraced, it can be very positive. And, much as, you can say a lot of negative things about social media, but you can also say a lot of positive things. This is an opportunity for brands to embrace new technology. It's an opportunity for consumers to frankly discover more information at their fingertips than they've ever been able to do. And, it's up to responsible actors and individuals, particularly on a governmental perspective, to try and ensure it's managed, policed, and regulated in the right way, that ultimately, as humans or citizens of Earth, as one tribe, it ends up as a positive for us all.
Love that. Well, it's a great way to think about this, and also think about the elements that we actually have control over. I can't tell you how many odd times I reference the Serenity Prayer in relation to AI, and that there are different roles all of us in this room, and especially in a room like this, are playing. And you're founding and building things. We have agency execs. We have all kinds of content creators and data analysts and people that are just here to learn, right? And it's like, how do we harness this and like steer the folks we work with and our own work in the right direction so that it's actually adding some kind of value? And so I think it's just this important thing to remember that there are things we have control over, even if it's not everything. Well, I appreciate your work in the space. Look forward to following it. Definitely curious how things play out over the holidays, and it'll be great to have your continued take in the community. I know Tony shared some ways that to follow up with you in Nomix. So yeah, really excited by what you're building. Thanks everyone for just amazing discussion for this week, especially. I'm going to make sure to have AI help me pull all the links that came in the chat, and I'll drop those in the AIMG Slacks because there's a lot of really good material here. I like how we often have multiple events in one. And so, Colin, thank you for being the main event today. Thanks, everyone. We'll have a great slate of events coming up rest of the year and beyond. So look forward to seeing everyone more. And as always, let me know how a Marketers Guild and I could be a resource for you. And have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everyone.